All right, so today we're going to kind of dive into something pretty complex.
Okay.
Sourcing solar panels from Chinese manufacturers.
Right.
We've got some legal advice and some real-world pitfalls to unpack from the sources.
Okay.
And I have to admit, I'm already fascinated by this.
Yeah.
Imagine this. You've finally taken the plunge. You know, you've invested in these shiny new solar panels.
Yeah.
You're dreaming of energy independence, and then they just don't produce the power that you were promised. What happens then? I'm glad we've got an expert here to help us navigate this tricky situation.
It's a scenario that plays out more often than you might think.
Really?
Yeah. And it's not always about faulty panels. Sometimes the panels simply don't meet the power output that was promised in the agreement.
So we're talking about an underperformance issue here that goes beyond just a few faulty panels.
Yeah.
What are the real-world consequences for someone who finds themselves in this situation?
Well, the most immediate impact is reduced efficiency. Your entire solar energy system just won't be generating as much electricity as you expected.
All right.
Which means a longer wait to see a return on your investment.
Yep.
And those lowered energy bills you were hoping for could remain elusive.
Right.
Beyond that, you might face increased operational costs trying to compensate for the underperformance. And of course, there's the potential for contract disputes.
Oh, yeah.
Which can be costly and time-consuming.
It sounds like a real nightmare scenario, especially for someone who's, put their faith and their hard-earned money into going solar.
Right.
So where do contracts come into play here? I'm guessing they're pretty crucial.
Absolutely.
Okay.
A clear and enforceable contract is your best defense in this situation.
Okay.
And here's where things get really interesting, especially when sourcing from Chinese manufacturers.
Okay.
We have to consider the nuances of Chinese contract law.
Okay.
Which might be unfamiliar territory for many.
So we're not just talking about any old contract. We need one that's tailored to the Chinese legal system.
Yeah.
What are some of the common pitfalls that foreign companies or even individuals should be aware of?
One of the biggest hurdles is encountering vague or non-standard contract clauses.
Okay.
For example, let's say the contract states the panel should meet international standards for efficiency, but doesn't specify which international standard.
Right.
China might have its own specific standards that are more stringent.
Right.
And that's what a Chinese court would likely uphold.
Oh, wow.
This kind of ambiguity can easily lead to disputes over panel quality and performance.
So even a contract that looks good on the surface could have hidden traps if it's not aligned with the specifics of Chinese law.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What are some of the steps we can take to avoid those contract headaches?
First and foremost, ensure the contract complies with Chinese law.
Okay.
Seems obvious,
Yeah.
but it's often overlooked.
Right.
And here's a key point that might surprise some.
Okay.
Having the contract drafted in Chinese makes a world of difference.
Oh.
It's not just about avoiding translation errors, although that's certainly important.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more about why the language of the contract is so crucial.
Contracts drafted in Chinese carry significantly more weight in Chinese courts.
Okay.
They're considered the definitive version in case of any disputes.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine trying to argue a technical point about solar panel efficiency in a language you barely understand.
Right.
That's the risk you run with a foreign language contract in China.
That's a powerful way to put it. So it's not just about understanding the words,
Right.
but understanding the legal nuances embedded in the language itself.
Precisely.
Wow.
A Chinese language contract ensures better alignment with the intricacies of the Chinese solar panel market.
Okay.
It minimizes the risk of disputes stemming from misinterpretations or conflicting legal definitions.
Okay. Contract in Chinese, check.
Yeah.
What else should we be keeping in mind?
Specificity is paramount.
Okay.
For instance, if the contract states a certain warranty period, make sure it clarifies exactly what that warranty covers and under what conditions it applies.
Yeah.
Does it cover just manufacturing defects or also performance degradation over time?
Yeah.
The devil is often in the details.
Yeah.
And being crystal clear in your contract language can prevent major headaches later.
I imagine that's especially important with something as technical as solar panels,
Right.
where a lot of specialized language is involved.
You're absolutely right. You need to be on the same page with the manufacturer when it comes to those technical details.
Okay.
Clearly define everything. Product specifications, quality standards, performance metrics. Leave no room for ambiguity.
Okay.
And just as importantly, outline specific procedures for quality inspection and dispute resolution.
Okay.
Think of this as establishing the ground rules for handling any bumps in the road.
So we've covered language and specificity. What else should companies or individuals be considering when it comes to drafting these contracts?
This is where aligning the contract with Chinese legal requirements becomes critical. We need to ensure that things like termination terms, liability clauses, and dispute resolution mechanisms all conform to Chinese law.
Can you break down why that alignment is so important?
It all comes down to enforceability.
Okay.
If your contract isn't aligned with Chinese law, you're going to have a much harder time enforcing it if a dispute arises.
Right.
This is especially important when dealing with product quality or warranty claims.
Right.
For example, let's say you need to terminate the contract due to consistent underperformance of the panels.
Uh-huh.
If the termination clause isn't valid under Chinese law, you could be stuck with those underperforming panels.
So it's not enough to just have contract. You need to have one that's going to hold up in a Chinese court.
Exactly. That's why having legal expertise that understands the ins and outs of Chinese contract law is absolutely essential.
This is all starting to paint a very clear picture.
Yeah.
Getting those solar panels from China can be a great opportunity.
Right.
But you really need to have your legal ducks in a row to avoid potential pitfalls.
Exactly. And there's one more crucial element to consider.
Okay.
The jurisdiction specified in the contract.
Okay.
Opting for Chinese jurisdiction can actually be a strategic advantage.
No, that's interesting. Why would a company choose to have dispute settled in China?
It comes down to predictability and enforceability.
Okay.
If you specify Chinese jurisdiction, any disputes will be resolved within the Chinese legal system.
Uh-huh.
This provides a level of certainty and consistency, especially when dealing with Chinese manufacturers.
So it's about playing on a familiar field, so to speak.
That's one way to think about it.
Okay.
But it's also about ensuring that the dispute resolution process is conducted under legal framework that's familiar to both parties.
And this can be particularly beneficial when dealing with those tricky issues like product quality or warranty claims, right?
Precisely. Chinese courts will be better equipped to enforce judgments against Chinese companies.
Okay.
This adds an extra layer of protection for foreign companies or individuals.
So we've covered a lot of ground here: contract language, specificity, the nuances of Chinese law, and even the importance of jurisdiction.
Yeah.
It's becoming very clear that navigating this process requires a solid understanding of the legal landscape. But before we move on, I have one more question.
Go ahead.
You've emphasized the importance of having legal experts who are well-versed in Chinese contract law.
Right.
But what about relying solely on foreign legal expertise? Is that ever a viable option?
That's a great question. And it's an area where we need to proceed with caution.
Okay.
While foreign legal expertise is certainly valuable in international business, it's not always sufficient when dealing with contracts involving Chinese companies.
What are some of the risks associated with relying solely on foreign legal expertise in this context?
The main risk is that even if a contract looks perfect from a foreign legal perspective, it might not align with the Chinese legal system.
Okay.
This can lead to contracts that are essentially unenforceable in China, which defeats the entire purpose.
So you could end up with a contract that's technically sound but practically useless.
Exactly. And this is why having expertise in Chinese contract law is so critical.
Okay.
You need someone who understands the specific requirements and nuances of the Chinese legal system to ensure your contract is both legally sound and practically enforceable.
That's a really important point. It's a reminder that we can't always assume that legal principles translate seamlessly across borders.
You're right, and this is particularly true when dealing with a country like China, which has its own unique legal traditions and practices.
We've uncovered a lot about the complexities of sourcing solar panels from China. It's clear that while there's great opportunity, careful consideration of the legal aspects is absolutely paramount. We'll be back soon to explore the implications of all this for the future of the solar industry. Don't go anywhere.
Picking up where we left off, you were asking about the risks of relying solely on foreign legal expertise when sourcing solar panels from China.
Yes, it's really eye-opening to see how critical it is to have that specialized knowledge of the Chinese legal system.
It's not just about knowing the law in general. It's about understanding the subtle nuances that can make or break a contract in China.
Can you give an example of what those nuances might look like in practice?
Let's talk about product specifications in the solar panel industry. There are very specific technical standards and certifications. A foreign legal expert might draft a contract referencing international standards, which seems logical at first glance.
Right, because those international standards are widely recognized, so you'd assume they'd be sufficient.
You'd think so, but here's the catch.
Okay.
Those international standards might not be fully aligned with Chinese regulations or industry practices.
Oh,
For instance, China's quality standard for hail resistance, GBT 31467.3, is quite different from the IEC 61214 standard commonly used internationally.
okay.
So even if your contract technically complies with international norms, it might not hold up in a Chinese court if a dispute arises over hail damage to the panels.
Ah, I see. So you could end up with a contract that's technically sound but practically useless in a Chinese court?
Precisely. And that's why having expertise in Chinese contract law is so crucial. It's not just about ticking the boxes of legal requirements. It's about understanding how those requirements are interpreted and applied in practice within the Chinese legal system.
This makes me think about the bigger picture. We're seeing this massive global shift towards renewable energy, and China is a dominant player in the solar panel market. What does this mean for companies around the world who are looking to source these panels?
That's a great question. It's clear that China's role in the solar industry is only going to become more significant.
Right.
This means that navigating the complexities of Chinese contract law is going to be increasingly important for businesses everywhere.
So this isn't just a niche legal issue. It has far-reaching implications for the global energy transition.
Absolutely. And it's not just about mitigating legal risks. It's also about building strong, sustainable partnerships with Chinese manufacturers.
That's an interesting point. How does having a well-drafted contract contribute to a stronger business relationship?
When both sides have a clear understanding of their rights and obligations, it fosters trust and transparency.
Uh-huh.
This is especially important in cross-border transactions, where cultural and business practices can differ significantly. A well-crafted contract with clear definitions of technical terms, payment schedules, and performance expectations sets a solid foundation for a successful partnership.
So it's not just about protecting yourself legally. It's about setting the stage for a successful and mutually beneficial collaboration.
Exactly. A well-drafted contract can actually be a tool for building stronger business relationships.
I'm starting to see how all of this connects. It's about understanding the legal landscape, mitigating risks, and building partnerships that support the growth of renewable energy globally.
It's a complex intersection of legal, technical, and business considerations. And as the solar industry continues to evolve, these factors will only become more intertwined.
This deep dive has been truly eye-opening. We've uncovered the intricacies of sourcing solar panels from China, from the potential pitfalls of underperforming panels to the importance of navigating Chinese contract law.
We've also touched upon the wider implications of this topic,
Right.
highlighting the role of consumer awareness and responsible sourcing in shaping a more sustainable future for the solar industry.
It's clear that as the demand for renewable energy keeps rising, understanding these legal complexities will be crucial for businesses all over the world.
It's a fascinating space to watch as we move towards a more sustainable future. Now, you were asking about the implications for individuals considering going solar.
Yes, that was my next question. We've covered a lot about the legal side of things, but what does all this mean for the average person who's thinking about investing in solar panels?
For homeowners or business owners looking to invest in solar energy, the key takeaway is this: do your homework.
Could you elaborate on what doing your homework entails in this context?
It starts with recognizing that buying solar panels is not like buying any other household appliance. It's a significant investment that requires careful consideration. And research don't just focus on the price tag, delve deeper into the specifications and the warranties offered by the manufacturer.
So look beyond the sticker price and really evaluate the long-term value and reliability of the panels.
Exactly. Research is crucial here. Read reviews, consult with independent experts, and compare different manufacturers before making a decision. Don't be afraid to ask questions about the manufacturing process, the materials used, and the company's track record, for example. Find out if the manufacturer has a history of product recalls or lawsuits related to panel quality.
It sounds like transparency is key. You want to work with a manufacturer who is open about their practices and willing to provide detailed information about their products.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the importance of seeking professional advice. If you're serious about going solar, consult with a reputable solar installer who has experience working with Chinese manufacturers. They can help you navigate the complexities of sourcing and installation, ensuring you get a system that meets your needs and complies with local regulations.
So it's a combination of individual research and getting expert guidance, empowering yourself with knowledge, and seeking support from professionals who can help navigate the complexities.
Exactly. And even if you are working with a local installer, it's still important to understand the basics of the contract you're signing. Don't be afraid to ask questions about the terms and conditions,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to warranties, performance guarantees, and what happens if there's a dispute.
This is all such valuable advice. It's about being an informed consumer, asking the right questions, and understanding the commitments you're making. This also connects back to what we talked about earlier regarding the global implications of this topic. As the demand for renewable energy grows, so too will the importance of consumer awareness and responsible sourcing practices.
I couldn't agree more. We're all stakeholders in this transition toward a more sustainable future. By making informed choices, we can contribute to the growth of a responsible and ethical solar industry.
We've been talking about, doing your homework when sourcing these solar panels,
Right.
especially from Chinese manufacturers.
Yeah.
But beyond the technical specs and the legalities, are there any red flags that individuals should look out for when researching a manufacturer?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
One major red flag is a lack of transparency.
Okay.
If a manufacturer is hesitant to provide detailed information about their production processes, material sourcing, or quality control measures, that's a sign to proceed with caution.
So it's about looking for manufacturers who are upfront about their practices
Right.
and willing to answer your questions thoroughly.
Exactly. Another red flag is a history of inconsistent product quality.
Okay.
Or customer service issues, online reviews, and industry forums can be valuable resources for gauging a manufacturer's reputation.
It sounds like due diligence is key here.
Yeah,
Not just taking the manufacturer's word for it, but actively seeking out independent information and feedback.
absolutely. And while price is always a consideration,
Right.
be wary of manufacturers offering prices significantly lower than the market average.
Okay.
Sometimes those ultra-low prices come at the expense of quality or ethical sourcing practices.
That makes sense. It's about finding that balance between cost effectiveness
Right.
and ensuring you're getting a reliable, ethically produced product.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you've done your research, you found a reputable manufacturer,
Uh-huh.
and you're ready to move forward with a purchase. What kind of questions should you be asking your installer at this stage?
First and foremost, ask about their experience working with that specific manufacturer.
Okay.
Have they installed their panels before? Are they familiar with their warranty procedures and technical support?
So you're not just evaluating the manufacturer, you're also evaluating the installer's expertise
Right.
in working with that specific brand.
Exactly. You want an installer who can confidently address any technical questions or concerns that might arise during or after installation.
What about the installation process itself? Are there specific aspects related to Chinese manufactured panels that homeowners should be aware of?
While installation standards are generally universal,
Okay.
it's important to ensure your installer is familiar with the specific requirements for the panels you've chosen.
Okay.
This includes understanding any unique mounting systems or electrical configurations that might apply.
So even after you've signed the contract and made the purchase communication and transparency with your installer are still crucial.
Absolutely. A good installer will keep you informed throughout the process, addressing any questions or concerns you might have, and ensuring the system is installed correctly and meets all safety standards.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation.
Okay.
We've really delved into the complexities of sourcing solar panels from Chinese manufacturers, from the legal considerations to the technical aspects and the importance of thorough due diligence.
Yeah.
And we've touched upon the wider implications of this topic, highlighting the role of consumer awareness and responsible sourcing in shaping a more sustainable future for the solar industry.
Absolutely.
It's clear that as we transition towards renewable energy sources, informed decision-making and collaborative partnerships will be key to ensuring a bright future for both individuals and the planet. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure. I always enjoy these deep dives.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. We hope you found it valuable and empowering. Remember, knowledge is power, and by arming yourselves with the right information, you can make informed choices that contribute to a brighter, more sustainable future. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those conversations about renewable energy flowing.